What's up there, fellow YouTubers? This is Chris from the Msss Anomalies channel. Alright, guys, I'm going to call this the perspective video. Um, this is going to help the people who are already subscribers, but also the people who love to call people names and say that you're out of your mind, you must be smoking some nasty weed, whatever it is that you guys want to do. And I don't mean to pick on you guys. I'm saying because apparently, and I got to be honest with you guys, I was duped just as much as anybody else. We are all being duped as far as what these so-called mountains are. And this is going to be a two-part. I'm not going to try to make this too long, each part of these, but I want to show you guys very quickly what I believe why... First of all, you know how I say Mount Shop is Mount Garbage, because I don't believe it's a mountain at all. Even if there was a Mount Shop, I don't believe the picture that it shows these mountains in. And there's also the second part I'm going to do is the actual ridge. It's the actual ridge of the crater that's around Mount Shop. And so I'm going to let you guys see that. And I'm going to give you a perspective of what I think. But I'm going to show you, first of all, how big this rover is and how big the average man is. And then I'm going to show you the picture that has this panorama. And then I'm going to put it in relation to what I think something a certain size would be in this picture or on this bottom of this mountain. So let's begin with this. Let's start with, okay, here's the panorama right here, and it says NASA Mars rover begins driving at Bradbury Landing. This is the 360-degree panorama. Now, I'll give you guys the actual link to it. You guys can check this out and look it over yourself. Okay. Now, let me see. Let me go to right here. Here's the rover. Here's the guy standing next to it. Okay, he's on to the right here. I'm going to assume he's average height, well, anywhere between 5'8" and at least 6 foot. Okay, now you guys we can diddle around with sizes all day long, but it's not going to change a thing. Here's the nuclear generator in the back. I believe this is the UHF antenna right here, which is bigger than his head. But anyway, you can see flat floor, everything's on the flat except behind him. There's some kind of weird, whatever this is, doors or machine or whatever the heck this is behind it right there. But you could see his head is pretty much level with these two poles or whatever these things are behind him. So he's bigger than the actual generator, but he's actually shorter than the antenna right here. Okay, now, here's the front of the vehicle. You got your nav cams in the front. This is your mass cams up at the top, which turns and, focuses and everything else. But, so, rear end of it, front end. Trying to give you guys a better perspective of how I see these pictures and how I see Mount Garbage, or the stuff I believe is around Mount Shop. I don't believe it's a mountain at all. The second part, I will show you the ridge that's around the crater, and you're going to see it's not a mountain at all. It really is not a mountain. It looks like a bunch of crap thrown together. I don't mean thrown together, but it's actually bigger than we really think. And that's the problem. So now, this is for all the people who think, I had one guy tell me I'm out of my mind because the things that are in the background are miles away. They're not. Apparently, a lot of these guys that talk like that, you're an idiot, you're out of your mind. They don't know. I've seen too many of these pictures to know these guys are full of it. And I know I got a pretty good perspective. Okay, we see the size of this guy here. We'll go back to him if we need to. All right. This is Pier, right here, Pier 16092. And you guys can look this up yourself. Okay, let's just for a minute. Okay, look at this. Let's back out. Actually, we don't really have to back out that much, but let's do this here. Okay, here's the back. Here's the nuclear generator. Here's the antenna itself. This guy would be standing right about here. His head would be between them. Remember I said it was a little bit bigger. He's a little taller than the generator itself, but shorter than the antenna itself. Let's call him right here. Okay. Let's say he just steps to the side just for the heck of it. Just steps to the side. He's about this tall. Standing to the side of this rover. Okay. Now, let's suppose for a moment, okay, he still is, like I said, he's about this tall. Here's the generator. He's about, he'd be right about here. Okay. That's him right here. Let's move the screen over. Okay. If he was standing next to this rock right here in the middle, he would be about this tall. Let's say his feet were right around here and he was standing between the rover and the rock itself. He'd be about this tall, standing right here. Okay. So now, let's look at this a moment. Now think for a moment. Here's the front of this thing, with all the tools and everything on it, and some of the cameras. Okay. If he's standing, let's say his feet are right next to these rocks, he'd be about this tall. Because if he'd walk away from this rover, he'd be about this tall. Okay, that rock is probably 6-7 inches wide tops. Okay. Knowing that, how far is it from the front of this Rover? Because even if we were to do this, okay, here's the back. This is the very tip of the generator. He's about this big. Okay, and if he was standing right in front of this thing, he'd be taller than this part here. Okay. You'd see his head and his shoulders, everything would be right here. Okay, now let's put him back over towards this rock. If his feet were right next to these pebbles, he'd be about at least this tall. Okay. From this rock to here is not very far, people. Now, you go from here to this little tiny ridge right here. How far do you think that is? I mean, 8 feet? Let's call it 10 for argument's sake. All right. Now, you mean to tell me from there, from this rock to this ridge, and then from this ridge over there is miles away? Come on, man. We got to use a little common sense here. We're all being duped here. This is not a mountain as we think it is. The first thing you think of as mountain is you go, wow, these things must be huge. They're not. That's the problem. And this is how they get away with fooling the public. It's fooled me for I don't know how long, guys. It really has. And keep in mind, this thing is not very big, this Rover. I mean, I think it was like a 10 by 10, and by height, it's like 9 feet with the, I don't know if that thing's telescopic or not, the mass cam and stuff like that, but, you know, even at its height, I think it's like 9 feet. So, okay. So, even if you were to stand right here, over here, I mean, how far is that across? I mean, come on. You know, we got to look at this stuff and just, you know, mine, this is what I've got here. Let me see if I can find this. Nope. And nope. This is a 2010, you know, Chevy Suburban. I'm going to show you how big I think this thing is across that area, that space between that rock or that Rover to the edge of that. Now, I could be a little off because I didn't do any scientific numbers, crunch any numbers or anything like that. So, so let's do this. Now, okay. This, I've already put that Rover, the Suburban in this picture. Now, again, if this guy was standing here, his head would be about this high. Okay, let's have him walk over here. He's going to be at least, you know, like I said, if he was to walk, if his head's about this tall, he'd be at least over here, looking down at this rock. And you guys, I mean, of course, I can't tell you exactly how big, but I mean, like I said, if his head's over here and he walked away from this Rover, how big would he be? He'd be standing here, looking down at this rock. Okay, then over to here. You're talking, what, another 8, 10 feet? And you're telling me it's all over there is miles away? No. This is how big I think the Suburban would be. That's how big I think. Now, it might be a hair bit smaller than that, or somewhere around there. Now, like I said, people go, wow, this is a huge mountain. You don't know how far this thing really is. I don't believe that. Like I said, if you're standing here, and you're as big as this right here, and like I said, if you were to walk over to here, okay, your head would be right here, and that rock would be behind you. Okay, now, let's walk around the rock. You'd be about this tall, looking right here. You'd be standing right here, looking down at this 6 or 7 inch wide rock. And over here would be, what, 8 feet away from you? And you're telling me from this ridge on is miles away. Come on, man. You know, we got to use a little, you know, perspective here. You got to really think about this. Because, and I got to be honest with you, like I said, guys, I was fooled and duped the same way. But all over here, all of this right here, guys, is vehicles, some kind of machine parts or something, all in this area. And believe me when I tell you, the cars that I've seen are about the size of that are hidden in this picture. Now, again, that scale is not exact. Come on, you know. So don't take me, don't edge it in stone. Like I said, this is exactly the way the size it should be. I'm saying if we would just look at ourselves and we were standing in front of this Rover, your head would be about this high, your feet would be on the ground, you'd be looking down at this little rock. This doesn't look that far away from me, guys. It really doesn't. You know? And I told you before, if you go way back on the other side here, look at my other one, my last 2 videos of Mount Shop. Mount Shop, not what you think it is. All of these look like some kind of weird jet, cars, all kinds of these weird vehicles in these pictures. If that's true, and let's say it takes you, you know, let's say that is an actual size, well, if you walked all the way across, you know, you'd be smaller and smaller, and these things, you could probably get in one of these too, if they were vehicles per se. But now this may be a hair bit bigger. It may be actually maybe the size of this outline I put on here, and the vehicle might actually be that big. Because keep in mind, this Suburban is a lot bigger than this. Well, not a lot bigger, but it's bigger than this Rover. They say it's supposed to be like the size of a small SUV, you know. But if you figure a full-size Suburban's bigger than this vehicle, so let's say it was just a hair bit bigger or around that scale, you guys can tell me what you think. But I'm personally telling you right here, from here over, like I said, you'd be standing right here, looking down at this rock. This would be just like a little edge. Okay, how much farther is that away? And like I said, the second part I'm going to show you guys, you're going to be like, whoa, because I'm going to show you what looks like the ridge, or the ridge line of the surrounding crater, the Gale crater, around this supposed Mount Sharp. And I've showed you so many inconsistencies in this mountain so far, and, you know, most people, well, I don't know if they'd fully accept it already, but I think it's because of the perspective. Everybody believes that this mountain is huge. I think it's supposed to be 3.2 miles high. Now, is it meaning right in this spot, or is it because it's a lot wider than what it's showing here? As far as aerial view, it's a lot wider. So is it way on the other side of the mountain it's 3.2 miles? I don't know. Maybe I'm off, too, as far as the measurements, because I've seen so many things in this area. I don't know what's what anymore as far as height-wise and so on and so forth. But I believe that would be about right. If you were to take a walk, you know, if you were about this tall here and you just took a walk across here, I mean, this might be 75 feet away for all we know. I mean, it looks a lot bigger, and it really does. But, again, put yourself standing right here, looking down at this rock, and then you walk over to this little... How far is that from there to there? I mean, come on. From the Rover to there, from there to there. How far is that? And you're telling me all of a sudden from this ridge line it's miles away? It's not, guys. I'm telling you right now. Now, you can throw me your ideas and tell me what you think. Maybe I'm way off. I don't believe I am. But if you were to walk and keep walking across here, you might be small enough. You'd be small enough by then to get in that. You know what I mean? In other words, you'd be about that size. I've showed you stuff all along this ridge on this mountain. I think it's on part 3. Mount Sharp, not what you think it is. There's all kinds of weird vehicles, look like tunnels. There's all kinds of just strange things. And believe it or not, especially on this ridge right here, they look about the size of that Suburban. Now, as crazy as that sounds, look it over, think about the perspective. That's what you have to think. And again, here's our other guy right here. This is the guy standing next to the Rover. Like I said, he's just over here's the top of his head, over that nuclear generator, but smaller than this UHF antenna. So you have to say, okay, here we go, he's underneath here. He's over the top of this mechanical part here. The tooling and everything else. He's actually over that. Okay. Actually, if you go by this right here, I'm assuming this part of this wall is the same height as this. Well, he's a hair over that. So his head would be right about here looking over this piece here. And it would be just below the mast cam and everything else. So that's to give you a perspective of a man the size of this Rover to the size of, not that one, not that one either. I'll find it. Give me a minute here. But so here, he'd be about right here. And in front, he'd be right about here. Now walk away from it. He'd be standing about this tall. He's standing about this tall and feet on the ground, looking down at this little rock. And then walk over this little ridge. I find it hard to believe, guys, from that ridge on is miles away, and it's not. And I've seen too many things in here that look like cars the size of this. Inside here, of course, they're all, pixelated out. And, of course, I got another one coming up for you guys, too. You're going to see how they really hide cars. I've got one coming up, and you're just going to go, what? It's not a solid form. It's ghosted out. There's several cars that look like they're damaged in the picture, and then there's 2 of them that look like they're ghosted out. And they're right in this picture, and it's one of the newest pictures out. So I'm going to do a second part showing you the ridge. And then you guys can, like I said, give me your take. As always, I want your take on this thing. Tell me what you think as far as perspective-wise. If I'm way off on this thing, or don't think about a mountain. Think about an actual, just a flat piece of ground walking from here, from that little Suburban, well, not that's a little there, to this Rover, to this rock, and so on and so forth. Tell me how far you think this stuff is. Forget about the mountain. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think this huge mountainside, so everything over there would be super tiny. No. They've done way too many manipulations on these mountains to believe that it's true. And after I show you the second part, which is like the ridge of Gale Crater, I believe that's what it is. If you look in the 360 panorama on this, it goes around to the right, like right over here, and here's the other ridge. See it? And that's where this is crap. You can tell they're fake. I mean, look how whited out and fake they are anyway. But I'm going to show you there's inconsistencies in there. Like, they try to smooth it all out to make it look like they're all mountains, but when you really use a brightness and contrast, you get rid of most of this white ghosting, I'm going to call it, or white blur, that you actually see stuff inside these so-called mountains. So, and like I said, look at the size of the wheels right here. I mean, if you walked over here from right here, again, you'd be about this high over this front of this. You could walk over here and look at it. I mean, you walk over to this rock. This stuff is not that far, people. It really isn't, So you guys tell me. I'm going to let you figure it out. Here it is. Here's the smallest picture. There's a little suburban way in the background. Here's a rock. You'd be standing over here about this high. You guys tell me how big you think this stuff is. If I'm way off, if I'm close. But I'm just trying to get people to understand. So when you watch my videos, things are not what you think they are. Things are a lot different. They're not. I always thought this thing was huge. At least this mountain, this particular mountain, was absolutely huge. It's not as big as we think it is, and the distance from this rover is not the distance we think it is. And that's what fools a lot of people. That's why they think, oh, I must be out of, this guy is doing his video, must be out of his mind. No, you have to look at it in the perspective and how they go about lying and the manipulations that they do. Watch my videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's so many inconsistencies in the so-called mountain, it makes your head spin. Watch the 3 parts that I've got. Or at least the second or third part of Mount Shop, not what you think it is. And then you guys tell me what you think as far as inconsistencies and perspective-wise. Just give me your thoughts on it after that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to let you go with this one here. You know, like I said, I just wanted to share this because I think there's a lot of, you know, misconceptions that people think that certain things are certain sizes, and they're clearly not. I mean, I've been looking at too many of these pictures and too many, the mountain, especially the mountain, what do you call it, Mount Shop and the areas around it, that there's so many inconsistencies. And I thought about it, I'm going, my God, this is not really a mountain, or at least the distance we think it is. It's no wonder why I'm seeing cars on some of these, or some kind of buildings or structures or something. And you're just trying to battle with the idea. You think mountain, you think, wow, you think huge, right? I did too. But if you think of it in a different perspective, it's not that far, not much of a distance, it all starts to come clear to you. So, you know, you guys picture yourself standing next to this rover, and then that rock, and then that little, what looks like a little dune kind of thing, a little ridge in the ground, and then from there on, how far is it from there? Am I way off? Am I a little bit closer? Am I dead on? Let me know. But anyway, guys, always leave your comments down below. I'll leave the link for this so you guys can get this panorama yourself, or at least the picture itself. You guys tell me, and see where we go from this. And like I said, there'll be a second part on this because I want to show you the mountains in the back and how much I think they're crap too. But if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, man. Keep up with the videos I've got here, and got some pretty wild stuff. I keep up on the Chang'e 3, which is the China lander, as well as the rover, the U2 rover, or the White Rabbit as they call it, as well as what's going on Mars. We try to keep everything, you know, fresh and keep up to date. This one of these pictures I'm going to be showing you, that's, like I said, it looks like there's got cars in it, and clearly they're right there. Only they're like ghosted, like a Casper kind of thing, where you see the outline, but you see transparently through it. And it's right there. And it's in one of the latest pictures that they've just had out. I think it was Sol 494, I think it was. But anyway, guys, stay tuned. Like I said, you'll see some pretty cool stuff here. And that's it. What else can I say? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. And I will see you next pick.